There are very few weapons in TF2 that fascinate me nearly as much as this silly little wrench does. With how it is a weapon that not only has stats unlike any other, but also has the power to single-handedly change the engineer into an entirely different class. Sure, there's demo knights, but to be fair, that's technically at least like 2 or 3 weapons you have to equip to turn into one. A weapon that shifts engineer from a turtling sentry building supportive class into an absolute flanking, shooting, picking off menace. Something unheard of in TF2. Alright, you know what? That one's fair. Yeah, I did basically just explain what Scout is. But regardless, this most fascinating weapon is the Jag. Okay, not really. You saw the thumbnail on the lightning bolts. It's the... The goal of a weapon side grade usually is to either mimic the stock weapon with a few stat changes here and there, or to provide a completely new utility to the class, such as maybe adding a height meter with the Scout Soda Popper, or healing them. Then hit them with crits. With the Eureka effect, it starts off pretty modest, nerfing your general building speed with less metal given from pickups or dispensers, and smacking your buildings with the wrench doing pretty much almost nothing compared to other wrenches. But in exchange, it does the less modest move of allowing you to literally appear out of thin air. Not only can you build and upgrade teleporters at half the cost, but the Eureka effect is like an on-hand teleporter, letting you warp between your spawn and any exit you have placed down. Now, engineers usually are not very mobile, being mostly bound to their buildings, protecting them and their teammates, consisting of tasks like setting up their sentries in optimal sentry spots, and placing dispensers nearby behind cover, whilst maintaining either of them to maximize your presence on the field. Then there's the teleporter, which is another essential building in his kit, but is kind of just an afterthought when it comes to placing it down. I mean, you pretty much put it wherever your team would probably want it to be, and that's about it. You really don't go near your teleporters after that, unless you're going up to them after you respawn. The Eureka effect changes that, however, because the teleporter now becomes an integral part of your gameplay with your ability to teleport to it without cooldown. With this being said, the Eureka effect is typically used in one of 2 ways. The conventional engineer, who uses it for the regular engineer tasks as mentioned earlier, or the, I guess we'll call it the unconventional engineer. Now, of course, with regular engineering, the Eureka effect is useful since there are tactics like the classic patented Jag effect rollout by that one guy with the white beard, where you basically combine the cheaper teleporters and spawn teleporting of the Eureka effect, along with the Jag swing speed during the setup of a round, to quickly place and upgrade all of your buildings. Some other useful ways to use it is if there happens to be a pretty significant lineup for your teleporter, whether if your team was just wiped out by the enemies, or your snipers all were killed by the same spy, you could simply just teleport to your exit without having to use up its cooldown, which is nice, especially if it's not at max level. Or, what about needing metal when there isn't any ammo or other sources of it nearby? Instead of running across the battlefield just to pull up to a different ammo box or teammate's dispenser, and then run back again, you can instead just teleport to your portable resupply cabinet and then straight back. As easy as that. So, maybe not when they're destroyed, since it takes like a whole 5 minutes building and upgrading everything back with this wrench's debuffs. But then there is the other way, one that adapts the engineer's style of play into something completely different, which is the hidden art of Ninjaneering. See what I did there? Hidden? Yeah, I know that one was good. If you somehow manage to get behind the enemies, which is a lot easier in more open maps, you can find a place to hide a teleporter behind them that you can then teleport to whenever you want to flank at will. Unless, of course, the enemies find and destroy it. Yo. Spy sapped it again? Some good places to hide a teleporter is anything that obstructs line of sight from it, like behind walls in a corner. Somewhere even in a bush works pretty well too. You could also pair it with prop jumping on a different building or comboing it with weapons like the Wrangler to hide it somewhere up higher, so that a lot less classes can find and destroy it. One of which including spies, which is the main class that's looking for your buildings. So here's the cool thing about teleporting to your exit. It doesn't matter if your exit is connected to an entrance or not, you can still teleport either way. My exit is hidden off right there. I mean, come on, it's perfect. And since it's technically off, there is no light coming off of it, making it way harder to see. So I teleport to it, appearing in the middle of a fight, and take these guys by surprise, doing the spy's job but better. Or this clip where I managed to put up a teleporter way behind them in advance, getting a few kills here and there as my team moves the card up a bit. Then once the next point unlocks, I now have a sentry up, already completely stopping the red team from putting up a proper defense. Should I build the brass beast? Oh, absolutely. Now let me just walk in, kill this guy, get rid of this guy, and then this guy, and then, I mean, come on! There are so many instances where you can hide a teleporter behind the enemy team, and then appear absolutely demolishing them. I wouldn't really suggest using this though if you are the only engineer on your team, since keep in mind, you are a supportive class, and when you're using it only to run around flanking, you're kind of taking your teleporter away from the rest of your team.
Engineer, where's the teleporter?
You don't want to know. When the teleporter is on, at the expense of it being much more visibly and audibly obvious, your teammates have access to the ultimate flank you built along with you, so your team could coordinate infiltrating the enemies from both sides. And some other pretty rare tactics I see engineers use as well is, since the teleport taunt animation is relatively short, being only about 2 seconds long, it can be useful to run yourself around a corner, then quickly teleport back to spawn to make a quick getaway. Or an even rarer strategy, if the enemies are aware that you built a hidden teleporter somewhere, you could also build an entrance behind them to possibly make people think they destroyed it, or your entrance, or really any building, can be used as kind of an alarm that they are looking for your exit teleporter. The thing about Ninjaneering, however, is that it isn't really something that is always welcome, especially if your team seems to be already doing well at completing the objectives, and would prefer just a normal teleporter. So even though Ninjaneering and just running around with a shotgun killing people with a class that shouldn't be getting that many kills is fun, try to reserve being a flanking engineer for the beginning of rounds, or when your team is at a stalemate, or if your team has another engineer that can pick up the slack. And know that if you find your teleporters being found pretty quickly, it is probably best to just drop the engineering thing. Alright. The way that the Eureka effect is supposed to be used sort of fits into what the name entails. It asks you to be creative with how you place and use your buildings, more than any other wrench does to find those Eureka kind of moments in any round that you use it. And also maybe put some sunglasses on, since your screens are just going to be almost as bad as Discord light mode every time you want to teleport. Despite this weapon being useful for any engineer, whether if they are more defensive or offensive driven, people don't really use it all that often, and prefer to opt into other way more used wrenches like the Jag, since it's really one of the best wrenches in the game right now, the Gunslinger, which is engineer's signature offense weapon, and there will always be a decent handful of people using stock weapons like the wrench. As for this thing, it's really only used by people who realize it actually is better than stock. For the Eureka effect, I think people are very discouraged to use it because of its debuffs and how it makes an already pretty slow starting class even slower. But once you realize how you can counteract engineer's weaknesses with its ability to teleport, you really start to see this weapon's potential, as not only being able to build things wherever without having to consider how far the closest health kit or ammo box is, and also since in theory there is quite literally nothing faster in the game than an engineer with the Eureka effect. Right. With that said, for all of you engineers out there smacking away at your buildings with your meta-defined loadouts, take some games to use the weapon and go around teleporting behind people or shifting the map in your favor, and really just enjoy what the Eureka effect is all about, which is, at least in my opinion, the engineer's best but most underused weapon in TF2. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and once again for all the support my recent TF2 content. For those of you who don't know, I've been starting to upload shorts on both my YouTube channel and my TikTok. Be sure to check those out if you're interested. And if you want to see more content like this, or have another weapon in mind that you find is really underrated or underused, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But once again though, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to do all that funny YouTube stuff such as liking and subscribing, and I will see you all in the next silly little video I make. Bye-bye.